Hey, good morning. We are out on our walk. Fancy, and there's Fancy. Say hi, Fancy. We hit about the halfway point, and it's all downhill. Sun's starting to come up over my shoulder. It's a beautiful morning out here this morning. You know, I've been trying to do these, or the intent of doing these morning videos was to talk about whatever popped in my mind while we were hiking or walking. And this morning, though, I came into this knowing what I was going to talk about. Because when I woke up this morning, I read a little bit of news, got caught up on the headlines before I started my day, and I found a story about the Attorney General of the state of Missouri investigating the city of Kansas City, which I found very interesting. The reason why they are being investigated is because the official Twitter account for the city doxed one of the Kansas City Chiefs players. And if you don't know what doxing is, it's releasing personal information about somebody in an attempt to have them harmed. You know, somebody knows where they live, they'll attack them or they'll vandalize their property or whatever. But anyway, they doxed this Kansas City Chiefs player. And oh, come on. Oh, she found a dead frog. Come on, don't eat that. Nasty. The reason that somebody in the Kansas City government felt he needed to be doxxed and potentially harmed was because of a speech this player gave. And the player was Harrison Butker. He's the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. And on May 11th or 12th, I'm not really quite sure which one it was, he gave the commencement speech at Benedictine College, which is a Catholic university there in Kansas City. And, well, it's in the Kansas City area. And he committed the cardinal sin of questioning and offering a counter narrative to the liberal mindset. And I had heard about it before. And, we got a car. That's right. Come on. So anyway, he gave this commencement speech, and I'm going to put the link to the speech down below. I had heard about the uproar that he had caused, but I really hadn't listened to the speech because, you know, it's kind of that pop culture thing, the NFL and all that stuff. And I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't anything that I really delved into. Well, I watched the speech, and I'm telling you folks, you ought to go watch it. Even if you're not a Catholic, you should go watch it. Because the young man, he's not a young man. He's a grown adult, but compared to me, most everybody is a young man anymore. But anyway, he gave one of the best written and delivered speeches on courage and community and standing by your values that I had heard in a very long time. Like I said, I'll put the link down below. In a nutshell, the sins he committed were he spoke about the president specifically and other high members of the government, prominent members of the government, who all happen to be Catholic and don't follow their Catholic faith. He specifically mentioned Biden doing the sign of the cross at an abortion rally. You know, and in case you missed the memo, murdering children is not a Christian value. All right, it's not a Catholic value. It shouldn't be a value to anybody. But that's not important. Well, it is important, but that's not part of the conversation here. You know, another thing he did was he mentioned pride, and he mentioned it in the context of doing good work and following your vocation. You know, whether you're a mother, a father, or whatever, doing that and taking pride in it. And he mentioned not the sinful pride like we have an entire month dedicated to coming in June, And that was something else. And his speech upset people. I guess from what I was reading yesterday, the cackling shrews or the cackling hens on The View were talking about him, because they're experts in everything. And the CNN and MSNBC, they were beside themselves because he's such a terrible human being for saying what he said. I'm going to tell you what. His speech, he talked about being a father. He talked about meeting the love of his life in middle school and having children, and how she embraced motherhood over a career in something else. He talked about having the courage to stand up to the hierarchy. He was talking, a large part of his speech was directed directly at the being Catholic and the Catholic Church, and he made the point that priests should not be our friends. Okay, by that he meant it's a father-child relationship with the priest, and it should be like that with any member of your church. Anybody that's higher up in your church. There's not the same bro code when you've got that type of relationship. And he called out Catholic priests, but this goes for any clergy in the American church that puts their hobbies and how they present themselves in front of their job, staying in their lane, their vocation. And just what he said was really, really inspirational, and it was well received by the crowd. It was a pretty huge crowd. Benedictine's a NAIA school, I think it's an independent school, but it's got a pretty sizable student population, and it was well received. And he said what we should all be saying. He talked about the Latin Mass and how the Catholic Church is trying to do away with it because it's not hip. And I got to agree with him in this. I'm not Catholic, but when I was going to military school, we had to go to school on Sunday. And when I was living in the barracks, I declared as Catholic because the Catholic Church was 2 blocks away from the school, and everything else was like a mile away. So I went to Catholic Mass, and it was an old school Latin Mass. And I'll tell you what, if you've never been to a Latin Mass, even if you're not Catholic and you may not understand all the iconography and everything, I would go find a church that does a traditional Latin Mass and check it out, because in my mind, it's very beautiful, and it harkens back to the first century church, and kind of even if you're not a Catholic, it should ground you in your roots just a little bit. All right, but he pointed out his actions. He was very courageous. He knew exactly what the reaction was going to be. Oh, hang on a second. I gotta Fancy's out on the end of the leash now. He knew exactly what the reaction was going to be, and he gave this speech anyway. He was courageous because he challenged the Catholic Church itself. He challenged the church to do better. I mean, basically that was his call to the church, and he challenged the orthodoxy that these college graduates are being taught in a lot of places. I don't know about Benedictine. I know about it from back when I was in college and playing baseball, and they had basketball. We played basketball against them too at my school. But I can't imagine that they're teaching the kind of nonsense that we see at Harvard and Columbia and all these other places. But he told these kids that they needed to be strong in their faith, they needed to be true in their vocation, and they were the future. And he's right. Hey, come on, leave him alone. We're going by the neighbor's house. He's getting ready to go to work, and Fancy's all up in his business. Being a nosy dog, aren't you? But, you know, I'm glad I watched it, and I'm glad... Oh, I lost you guys. I'm wandering all around with the picture. I'm glad I watched the speech, and I listened to the speech, and I'm glad that he has taken his thumb with this speech and stuck it right in the eye of the people that are trying to destroy the moral fabric of our country. And that's the politicians, the media, even in a roundabout way, he went contrary to his employer. In fact, the NFL could not get a statement out fast enough distancing themselves from what he said, because the NFL is more worried about the almighty dollar and upsetting the... Oh, okay, he's going the other way. And upsetting the vocal few than promoting the values that made this country great and will make it a great country again. Well, it's still a great country. We're tarnished, we're battered, we're bruised. Got some dents, need some body work. Need to take out some trash. It's still a great country though. But it can be better. We can do better. We need to have the courage that Harrison Buckner talked about, and we can do better, and we can get those around us to do better. That was one of the things he said in the speech that I really liked, was he talked about surrounding yourself with people that make you better. Iron honing iron. And that's something we talk about on the channel all the time. And that's something that everybody in our community talks about. You know, we surround ourselves with people that raise us up and make us better people. And in return, we do that for those around us, right? We do it for other people as well. You know, so I highly recommend that you go to the link below. It's only about 20 minutes long, but it will fly by once you start listening to it. And you may not agree with the Catholic Church. I'm not a Catholic, and I don't agree with it. In fact, I've got some real problems with the Catholic Church. But what he said is true, and that's what we should be worried about, is the truth. You know, even if it comes from an angle that we really don't like or we don't agree with. If it's the truth, it's the truth, and we need to embrace it. All right? Hey, listen. It's been a great morning. We're almost back to the house. I like the trip home more than I like the trip out, because any direction you go from our house is uphill, so it's all downhill once we hit the midway point. And you'll notice I've got a backpack on this morning too. And that is a story for another day. Listen, if you want to support the channel and you want something that's really cool, we've talked about it on our lives, go check out the Rock Pot. I'll put the QR code up here. You can scan it. The link is down in or down in the description of the video. If you go to the rockpot.com, use our link, you can save $50 off of the purchase. Well, 50 off the big bundle and 25 off the normal one. But it's a fantastic off-grid cooking solution. We thank you for supporting the channel, and we want to give you something back. And by purchasing one of these, we feel like we're helping other people become more independent. You know, getting off the grid and everything. Whew, lost my breath there for a little bit. Anyway, go watch the video, and most importantly, go out and live a life done free today, guys. Thanks, Milo.